Okay, good morning. How are you? Good. My name is Byung-Kun Yu. You can call me just BK. You can think of Burger King. Okay. Actually, Jeremy and I will kind of make a presentation about eBook. Actually, yesterday Dr. Warren actually explained about eBook very well. I'm very impressed, right? There are many kinds of eBooks, right? But this time we want to focus on eBook in the setting of preschool. Okay. So the title is an eBook instructional model in early literacy. Okay, the eBook and children. Nowadays eBook are very common in the U.S., right? So I think many kids has iPad, the iPad, iPhones, So the speed of immersing to the eBook might be accelerated, even faster. As communication technology such as Wi-Fi, become common, in people's daily lives. Then, okay, what about eBook reading in terms of eBook pedagogy in early child classrooms? And what about the quality of current eBooks which many children are reading right now? And we will briefly explain our instructional model in early literacy, and we will focus more on the issue of the eBook quality rating tools. Okay, I mentioned the eBook pedagogy. Then what might eBook pedagogy look like in preschool? We approach this question from a design perspective, creating a prototype model for implementation of eBook pedagogy in preschool classrooms and set out to observe it. Our eBook model has 4 phase components. First one is eBook, second one is environment. The first one is the eBook and its quality in terms of design and content. And the second one, the physical environment of eBook reading in the classroom. And then third one, engagement in eBook reading for small groups and individual. And last one, explicit instruction using eBook. So right now, 4-phase study is in progress. So each phase for 6 weeks. So there are 8 ERF early reading first classrooms. Thus, we have 8 teachers, 8 teaching assistants, and 24 children. If I speak more specifically, actually there are 2 places. One is in Ohio, one is Arizona. So there are 4 classrooms in Ohio and 4 classrooms in Arizona. So you can see the kind of the progressing stuff, right? So the goal of the print, the lens down on each goal, components, and each process development tools can help us, to look more systematically at each component. So our approach is pretty straightforward. Introduce each component progressively and bringing what we learn from each phase, into the next towards the goal of examining the model of the instantiated, whole. And phase 1, I'll explain briefly about phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Jeremy will focus on the first phase. This is the kind of screenshot of the Tumble books. Actually we use Tumble book as one of the tools to develop our rating tools. And then the phase 1, our research goal is to design an effective and usable tool for early childhood teachers. We will more focus on later. And then the phase 2, we'll look closely at the physical environment of a shared eBook reading, and our research goal was to design an effective eBook physical environment for childhood the teachers and children's. Actually, this is one of the classroom in Bullhead City in Arizona. Can you see the ebook in this picture? Where is ebook? Yeah, this one. This is ebook. We made some kind of ebook nook. Okay, so if we slide this cover, then you can see touch screen, ebook. So children can get here, and then children also can interact with ebook. They can touch, they can touch the word, and then the teachers can, teach, children using this kind of ebook. Okay, during phase 3, we move from the physical environment to engagement. So research goal was to investigate teachers and children's engagement during ebook reading sessions. So we videotape, this one, and then we analyze children's face movement and smiling, frowning, all kind of stuff, and location, the motor skills, all kind of stuff. So if you're interested in this one, we're gonna present in ARA in New Orleans, so you can come. And this time we're gonna focus on just phase 1, okay? And then phase 4, the final phase 4, has the goal to examine fidelity to instructional protocol, say, tell, do, and target words used by teachers and children, and target vocabularies gained lost by children. At the time, we used the CBDM, pre-test and post-test, so we could see the children's, the vocabulary, the achievement stuff. Okay, next, Jeremy will focus on phase 1.
Thank you, BK. So we're going to look more closely at phase 1 right now, and the focus is on a tool development. And our goal was to create a tool that would be easy for teachers to use to help them rate the quality of an ebook and whether it would be useful for them to use in an instructional setting, or if it would be not useful or worthless, basically, for them to use. Our tool has developed along a couple of years. We began with a blueprint key in 2008 that we developed, moved through to a couple different analytic tools, which I'll discuss briefly, and now we're on to what we're calling our quality rating tool. And that tool itself has gone through a couple revisions as well. The blueprint key is where we began our work, and this really tried to get at the core of what is the ebook and what is multimedia aided instruction. We began by looking at the core of the object, or the knowledge object, or an instructional object that we based on the work of David Wiley and his work in learning objects. So we took an approach where we focused on digital assets, that is audio, video, and text, as a unit of analysis with the blueprint key. And we were trying to identify the learning-oriented assembly at the screen page level. So we made a tool that came up with this blueprint, and then when we applied it to a screen in, for example, a living book like Warren spoke about yesterday, we then went and identified the different multimedia assets that we found. So this example, we saw that there was a word wet. That was composed of a text asset in addition to an audio asset, but in addition to that, it had an animated image. So when you actually touched on the word or read the word, the child clicked on the word, it said the word wet, it animated that, and then had the audio of a dripping water sound to it. So we were really trying to get at the core of what are the main assets that are making up learning objects at the screen page level. We really tried to probe the navigation elements that we normally associate with what's called GUI in programming, or graphical user interface. So that was the approach of the blueprint key. And it worked well for some things, but it wasn't quite enough to get at what we were really trying to look at. So we then moved on to developing an analytic tool 1. Tool 1 as an application uses the entire ebook actually as a unit of analysis. And it's organized into 4 categories: book assistance, multimedia illustrations, multimedia print, and interactivity that reflect the major early literacy learning domains of book handling, comprehension, word recognition, and cognitive processing. And the 4 categories included 14 elements that describe ebook designs, like the presence of static or animated images. This work was adapted from coding categories that were set forth by Zhang and Bus in 2003. And again, we were looking primarily at multimedia and interactivity as these design features. So we took a corpus of ebooks and applied Tool 1 to all of those various titles. In addition to Tool 1, we worked on developing another tool, which we called Analytic Tool 2, very clever. But this was derived from actually the principles of instructional design as described by Clark and Mayer. The design goal of these principles is focused on the learning in the online environment. This tool actually uses the screen page as its unit of analysis. So where Tool 1 focused on the ebook as a whole, here we're looking again at screen page. It looks at 5 principles: multimedia, continuity, redundancy, coherence, and personalization. And then further hones in on 12 design elements that specify these principles. So what we have done with this is, analyze 5 different graphic types that are used in multimedia design. And that's what you're seeing here. We're looking to see if multimedia are decorative in nature, if they're representative of something that might be in the ebook, if they're organizational type graphics, relational, transformational, or interpretive. So Tool 2 we found to be very useful, but it still wasn't taking us exactly where we wanted to go. So what we found ultimately was that these different analytic tools revealed different design features of an ebook, and what we ultimately decided to judge ebook quality may require a multi-purpose tool that examines both the electronic features and the book features of an ebook. So that brought us to Quality Rating Tool 1. We drew on the professional knowledge base and we developed this matrix to guide the design of a prototype tool for evaluating the E dimensions of early childhood ebooks. This matrix provides a framework for organizing the tool, categories and elements, and then specified criteria for judging the electronic environment. We looked at 3 main areas, and this is similar to what Warren was talking about with his rubric yesterday. We're looking at 3 main categories in Tool 1, at ease of use, multimedia, and interaction. And again, we took Tool 1 and applied it to a corpus of about 120 ebooks that had been identified. What we found after using Tool 1 with both internal raters, our teachers, and an external group of raters, which were educational researchers, is that we had a missing piece. We used it, results indicated that we were kind of on the right path, but the missing piece was that inter-rater reliability. So Tool 1 actually presented a challenge in establishing inter-rater reliability, which we ultimately determined was due to fuzziness in directions and the technical nature of vocabulary. So we had to revise. And we further refined Tool 1 to grow into Tool 2, where we continue to focus on the 3 main categories from the previous tool. However, we've shifted to a branching model to clarify and further probe the various elements within each category. So now we look for specific criteria such as a start page, and we ask teachers to identify whether it's present or not present. And based on their answer, if it's present, we probe further to see if the start page actually contains the ebook title, author, and illustrator. And we go through the 3 different main categories in that type of nature. This is a multi-layered tool that's focused on providing more explicit definitions of categories and teacher-friendly explanations. So I have a very technical or web developer type background, and I found that my language that I use doesn't translate well to teachers that are practicing teachers in the pre-K environment. So we've really worked on making more teacher-friendly vocabulary and directions with tool number 2. Some of our results to see if we have better reliability. I have 3 charts to show that the inter-rater reliability on the 3 subscales in version 2. 4 independent raters evaluated 5 ebooks by assigning each ebook a score between 1 for strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree, with ease of use, multimedia, and interaction are 3 main categories. Ratings were considered reliable if they fell within plus or minus 1 of the rating assigned by Rater 4, who was the project technology expert. Chart 1 here shows strong inter-rater reliability at 87% for ease of use ratings using the eBook Quality Rating Tool version 2. Chart 2 shows equally strong inter-rater reliability at 87% for multimedia ratings using the eBook Quality Rating Tool number 2. And chart 3 shows that interaction ratings using the tool number 2 were not as robust, only 73% as the previous two scales. Rater 3, who showed the least agreement, had not used the previous tool, nor had she participated in any discussions about the construction of the tool or the vocabulary and the elements associated. So we think at this time that's why we see a lack of reliability, or a less of a reliability within the interaction. So we think that we have a stronger tool, and we're heading into a larger scale use of the tool by teachers and external reviewers. The other phases of the project are now in progress, and at this time we'd like to open our presentation up to discussion, answer questions, and I'd be more than happy to demo some of the ebooks we're using on iPads, iPod Touch, and the web-based books, as well as offer the opportunity to meet outside this presentation and let you have a hands-on demonstration with any of the mobile devices and ebooks that we've brought with us.
So my question is, how, if you look across ebooks with this tool, how valuable is it in determining good ones from bad ones? So, I mean, it looks like you've got inter-rater reliability, but what I'm not seeing in your presentation is,
Sure.
Here's a collection of really lousy ones, here's some middle of the road, and here's some really good ones.
And that is what the tool has been able to show, so that there's a garden variety of ebooks out there. There's some that are really high in interactive features that pre-K teachers especially want to see when they're using them for instructional purposes, but we also have some really plain ones. So similar to the scale that Warren discussed yesterday, we have some that are basic PDF text on a screen to some with very high levels of interactivity, and that there's no really one path that we can take that to say that developers are using right now in as their criteria for developing ebooks. And it's led us to believe that we need to have more discussions between app developers and teachers to help further understand what makes a good ebook, especially in the early literacy.
Or for parents or teachers. I mean, you go to
iTunes
the iTunes store and type in, which I did yesterday after the presentation, and type in Peter Rabbit, and you're going to get, I don't know, 60 different things related to Peter Rabbit, and they're all over the place.
Yeah.
So they're all $1.99 or 99
Exactly.
cents. So what are you getting?
So it will be our hope that eventually, when we finish our research, that we will be able to have a tool that will help to establish some type of rating. So when the teacher reviews the book and uses a tool, it comes out somewhere on a scale. This might be a bad example, but you know, a wine rating scale that shows that this is a really high quality ebook, or this is that was the best I could come up with on the spot. I'm sorry. You all seem to know, but that would be our hope.
So, to further that, though, in absence for the layperson right now who's trying to deal with this, and they don't have a wonderful research project to figure out this inter-rater tool, what can we advise teachers and parents to do as far as what are 5 things or 3 things they should look for that are consistent that can help them determine the right decisions?
Sure.
Letting them just be absent of those, I don't think that's the right solution.
Sure.
Because we want to engage them in the product.
So a closer look at the tool itself might help answer that question. And what I will be doing is posting a link to a public version of the tool that you can view and use on your own. It'll be located on my blog. It's my last name, Brueck, EI.org. So www.brueckei.org. I'll post all the resources from this session along with links to this tool. But you want to look at things that are important in books. Does it have a cover? Is the author and illustrator identified? If I scroll down actually the back end of this tool, we want to know things about page numbers, turning the pages. Is there audio that tells the story? Can you toggle that on and off? When we look down into multimedia, we want to look at things like print highlights. So is the print being highlighted as it's read to the child? Is that focused at the word or at the phrase or at the paragraph level? Is it not even present? So you want to begin to evaluate the ebooks that you're seeing on those type of things, and you look at it from a teaching standpoint. So what would choose you to use a good children's lit title in your classroom, and then try to begin to apply those to the ebooks? In the absence of anything better than that, one thing that I would recommend is a great online resource called IEAR.org, IEAR.org. This is a community of educators that are reviewing apps from the App Store on a daily basis, and we download the apps, we try them out in our classrooms with our children, and then we write and post reviews online. So if you have a question about a specific educational app that you want to find out more about, check with IEAR first and see if someone has downloaded and reviewed that app, and you can get a little bit more insight. It's not the perfect solution now, but at least I have a group of about 40 educators that I'm working with that are really trying to figure out if they're worthwhile, if it's worth paying the $199 or the $499, and we're trying to get that information out. And that being said, I'd encourage you to join IEAR, and if you're interested in reviewing apps, talk to me after the session and I can get you hooked up with possibly some free redeem codes to do so.
Would you consider adding a rating of how much the children understand the story, or how much they learn from the story, or can they summarize what the story was? Something that, because I'm not totally convinced that added bells and whistles necessarily increase kids' understanding.
Correct. So yes, what we will do, we're looking right now at just vocabulary acquisition, but future studies we hope to go in and look at things like comprehension. And one of the things the tool looks at and asks the teachers, do you think the multimedia is distracting or enhancing to improve to student comprehension of the story? Do you think all the frosting, actually helps a child learn? And it's from that point, we're asking and trying to probe teachers' perceptions, so we can begin to get an understanding if teachers think it's helpful, and then maybe move further down the road to determine if it is or not, actually in a more scientific way. But we really want to move that way, and it's just there's not much research out there to draw on, and we're kind of forging our own path, and it takes time, as you know. So we would love to be able to do that. Yes.
I think in the first version of the tool, you talked about rating the ebooks on Mayor's, dimensions of multimedia learning, which I think is a wonderful idea from a research perspective, not necessarily from a pedagogical perspective, because those are complex quality. But I certainly would encourage you to pursue that, and in line with Betty's recommendation, you can do some very interesting correlational analyses about those qualities and the overall, the comprehension, enjoyment of the stories by kids. And in fact, if you had access to eBook, which had some of those features, you could turn them on and off and do some interesting experiments.
Sure.
Looking to see which of those qualities in young children relate to comprehension.
Sure. So you can see that this area is very complex, and all the different pieces that we need to try to put together to understand the ebook and its use in the classroom. So we're talking about things that are normally associated with instructional design or online learning, and that's more focused at adults at this time. Clark and Mayer's work, and it is complex, and there are many different facets that we have to be able to try to incorporate. So I can't stand here and say that we're going to have a great tool that is going to meet all those needs, but we're slowly but surely trying to define the tools that are helpful in each of those areas, and then begin to apply them more widely to children's ebooks. So I appreciate the comment, and we'll definitely take that back to our research team and see what we can do to further this work. I'd like to thank you for the time that you've given us today. Again, if there's extra questions, I'm going to be available out in the little area over here, and I'd be happy to engage with anyone that wants to talk a little bit more. Thank you.